life fixers. Hope you're having an awesome day. Are you ready to better understand yourself, your partner, and your marriage? I am super excited for today's episode, and I know you're really going to enjoy it. So if while you're enjoying it, you say like, hey, that's interesting, or I like that, and you think somebody else could go and benefit from it, right away, you don't even have to press pause, press the share button on whichever app you're listening to and share it with that person. That way, they too could benefit from this amazing episode. Today, we've got a couple who's gone through some really challenging stuff and took that challenge to become closer instead of further together. Now, even if you don't have this type of challenge in your life, I know you will get lessons from this couple and be able to go and apply them in your own relationship. Thank you so much, Connie and Jerry, for being here. I am excited to be speaking with you. You want to start by telling us how you guys met?
I am so glad to be on your show, Esty. Thank you for having us. I'm Connie. This is my husband, Jerry, and we actually met in the singles group at our church some 14 years ago, maybe.
And just like that, you knew right away you were for each other. You had to like date a while.
No. I remember when he walked in the room, I looked at him. I'd never seen him before. I had attended this church since I was 6 years old. And at the time that I met him, I was actually quite ill. And I was on a lot of medication at the time. And so I was trying to stay awake in Sunday school. And he walked in and I kind of woke right up and I thought to myself, he is good looking. And then I thought, oh, he's out of my league. Anyway, and so we just kind of said hi awkwardly. And then he asked me out on the day that I had decided in my mind, if he didn't ask me out by the end of the day, I'm done with him. And by the grace of God, he did.
How long was that after you originally met him?
3 months or so.
Yeah, too long.
Yeah.
I can't hear you, Jerry. Can you move the mic maybe a little toward? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, that's a little better.
So about 3 months.
Okay. Whoa. So what happened on that date that made you all of a sudden decide to ask, Jerry?
Well, so we were at a Sunday night get together.
Yeah.
And I had 2 kids from a previous marriage. And so I had taken both of them to this get together, and my daughter said, hey, when are we going to see Connie again? I really like her. And so Connie was leaving. And so I went out and just asked her, hey, what's she doing for spring break? And let's go watch a movie. So
it was the worst movie ever.
Yes, it was.
I hope you still enjoyed yourself.
We did.
Yes.
He chose 3 bad movies in a row, and I was so surprised that he kept me, but
yes, it was pretty bad.
Surprised that he kept you or you kept him? How does it go?
Yes.
So you said you were sick at that time?
Yes, I was. I was actually misdiagnosed at age 11. I had contracted an autoimmune disorder. It's called PANDAS, which stands for, it's an acronym, and it stands for Pediatric Autoimmune Neuropsychiatric Disorder Associated with Streptococcus. It's a long name, but what it essentially means is you have the strep virus in your body, but instead of your immune system fighting it off, your body isn't able to recognize that it has the strep virus. And so you continually get sick. And then all of a sudden, your own immune system starts to attack your brain. And so this autoimmune disorder kind of manifests itself like a mental illness. And back when I got it at age 11, it was just kind of being recognized in the medical community. And so I was misdiagnosed, and I ended up being misdiagnosed with a mental illness that I didn't have. And so that kind of put me into that whole world. And so when I met Jerry, I was actively being treated with medication for a mental disorder that I didn't have.
What mental disorder did they say?
Schizophrenia.
Okay. And
so I spent 20 years living like that.
And I'm so curious to hear what it was like to find out it was a misdiagnosis, but I also want to know what it was like living with that so-called diagnosis. Like,
okay,
you have it.
Well, So living with the diagnosis, when I met Jerry, I was also recently divorced. I married at age 19. He married at age 19. We both married the wrong people. And so then when we got together, I was just, well, if you picture, and this is an easy way to kind of understand it, when you have an alcoholic in the family, whatever age that you start to do the heavy drinking or you take heavy drugs like illegal illicit drugs, you can say that, like, if you started taking drugs at age 15, the mental development of that person using those heavy drugs would then stop at that point until they detox from those drugs. So one way that you could look at it is all of those years of heavy medications really kind of rendered my growing up to stop. So when I married Jerry, I was a sweet girl. I was a loving person. I was the same person that I am today, but I was very disabled. I didn't know how to really function well. I wasn't emotionally mature. I had a lot of relational issues, anxiety, codependency problems, simply for the fact that I had been on medications for so many years that had delayed my mental growth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what was it like for you, Jerry, knowing that Connie has this situation, both like knowing that I'm getting into a relationship with someone that has this mental illness that's not really mental illness, or but at that time that's what you thought, and how did it affect your marriage at that
Yeah.
point?
So interesting story. I didn't find out that she had an illness until uh, probably what, a third date, second or third date.
Yes.
And her mom was like, "Hey, you need to tell him, about you having schizophrenia." And so when I came over to her apartment and she was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you," I was like, "Oh, she's about to ditch me, right? Like I'm about to get the boot." So she was like, "Well, I have to tell you that I have schizophrenia." And I was just like hugely relieved that she was not gonna
He
get rid of
said,
me.
"Is that all?"
Yeah, so I said, "Is that all?" Wow. So, but then after
You know
that,
what it even meant and like how it was gonna affect you
Yes, he
afterwards?
had no clue.
I had no clue. So after I left, of course, get Google out and just be like, "Hey, what is schizophrenia?"
We're
So,
sociopaths, not.
yeah. So then of course, it's crazy what you read on the internet. So I thought, well, we might have to really look into this. So, but it was just a kind of a growing period of, I had no clue what it was. So just going from there, and then just kind of learning.
Learning as you go.
Yeah, just kind of learning as you go. So
I will say that Jerry's background growing up in the broken home that he did, and all the things he went through made him like already be geared towards being a really good caretaker. And although in a normal situation, and I hold the term normal very loosely, but normally you as a healthy individual don't want to go and you're not looking for a spouse that has active, very terrible issues to go into a long-term relationship or marriage with. And there's no harm or fault in admitting that. There's no shame in it because it is really, really tough. But I think Jerry's growing up in the background that he did kind of had him in a mindset and in a way where he had survived for so long that he was able to bear with me. Not that it was easy or that it was healthy, or even normal, but it enabled him to do that.
So Jerry, like, you want to share with us a little bit of your background? What is Connie talking about there?
well, so my childhood was pretty rough. It was a lot of physical abuse. And so, I was taught at a young age to be able to detach from my emotions, to just be able to survive the physical abuse. Because if you showed emotion, it got much worse. So, so when Connie when she was sick, I was able to detach and say, this is not her. This is, just it's not her true nature. So I was
It's the
able to,
illness.
yeah, it was the illness, and so I was able to, separate the two, and then for us to be able to work through that.
Yeah. So I guess not that it was good one tiny bit, but the one good part that came out of it was the fact of how you were able helping you, gave you the tools to help you deal with it later on. So yeah. So Connie, what was it like finding out you were misdiagnosed?
Normally, the initial thought would be that would be amazing, but it was actually absolutely earth shattering. One of the things, I'm a huge advocate for the mental health community, especially now that I'm so much better than I was. But one of the things that you tend to do when you have a diagnosis of a mental illness is you tend to identify, not anymore as a human, but as an illness. And the world tends to identify with you as your illness. So
That is the problem with these diagnoses.
it is.
Yes.
And it's not that it's not good to have a diagnosis, because a diagnosis helps you to know what form of treatment, what medication. And I am somebody, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, but I do not have any issues with medication, with therapy, with seeing a doctor, with going to a hospital. None of those things are bad or sinful or wrong. All truth is from God. And medication and therapy and diagnosis and doctors are truth. They help us. And so, but when you get a diagnosis, that is what you identify with. And slowly over the years, you only see your limitations and the issues that you have. And when you have an emotional disorder, it tends to be harder for people to want to be your friend, for people to include you, because you're not super able to keep commitments. You're not all of those things, you have anxiety, you have these unreasonable thought processes. And so it's a very isolating thing. And so when that was taken away from me, I didn't have anywhere to land. I was like, what do I do? Like, this has been my life. And you look back over the years, and I actually had a genetic blood typing test done in 2008, because the psychiatrist I was seeing at the time, she started to question this diagnosis. And she was a relatively new psychiatrist that I had started seeing. And she was like, you just don't fit the typical schizophrenic that I've seen. You're so self-aware, and you're so, your thought processes are just so deep and clear. They're not, they're just not fitting what I know of schizophrenia. And she said, did you know that these drugs, if you're taking them and you don't actually need them, they can cause these side effects that can mimic another mental illness? And if you look at the side effects on these heavy antipsychotics or these heavy mood stabilizers, you have side effects such as headache and tiredness and weight gain. But then if you look at the rare side effects, you'll see things such as paranoia, hallucinations, suicidal ideations, emotional upheaval, all of those different things. And so it would kind of be like somebody without cancer going and getting chemo. It not only wouldn't help, but it would hurt very terribly. And so I began, like I said, I had this blood test, and this blood test actually shows that I don't metabolize these medications. When I take them, my body doesn't have the genetic makeup to break them down and to have them go to the proper areas and have them help. And so I began a process of detoxing, which was very terrible. And then it was like my mind woke up, and it was hard before I stopped the medication. But the worst years of my life came after I realized I actually wasn't schizophrenic. During that time, because of all of the hospitalizations and the separations from my mother at a young age, and all of just the trauma that I went through, I actually developed borderline personality disorder. So that was something I did have. And so that was very terrible to try to come face to face with. And it was just devastating. It just felt like I had wasted my whole life, and now I didn't have anywhere to land. And not only that, but I didn't have these medications anymore, and my mind was just going crazy. And it was like before I had some sense of weird normalcy. I knew my place. I knew what I couldn't do. I knew my relationship with Jerry. And then all of a sudden I was just like on fire.
Yeah. How many years ago was this?
It is going to be 8 years on my birthday. I started this journey in 2008, and I would say the biggest pivotal moment was when I was 30 years old. 30 years old marked my last very serious suicide attempt. And from that point, I have been slowly learning to function as an adult, to control my emotions, to learn to think properly, to just kind of to redeem the years that the locusts have eaten. And it has not been an easy road.
I can't imagine, not even for a sec. It's like you have this your whole life. This is what you are. This is what you thought you are. Everything is built around this is me. And all of a sudden, it's taken away. You don't have that. You don't have the identity. You don't have everything you've been doing until now. And physically, your mind is changed. Your body is changed because of everything. So it's like such a buildup of so much going on there. It can't. That's tough. Really, really tough.
It was like when you're on the medication, it was like a numbed version of myself. Like there wasn't any feeling. I was sleeping all the time because of the heavy drugs. I was very compliant. You know, Jerry and I lived a pretty normal, quiet life. You know, we watched a lot of TV together. We just didn't do much because it was just that's how it was. But then when I came off the medication, it was like at that point I was nuts. I was nuts for several years in trying.
The first 3 years were pretty rough.
They're terrible.
So, you know, it was, and for me, being able to detach from emotions and all that stuff, and when she started coming off the medication, I was like, well, I can't blame it on the illness anymore. You know, she's getting off of. So is this truly what's going on? You know, and so it was much harder for me to work through that. And her mind really sped up. Yeah. And I just couldn't keep up with it. Like she would be doing crafts and changing stuff. Like she would just be able to think of multiple things at the same time, and I just couldn't keep up. Yeah. And so it took me a while to kind of catch up to where she was at.
So how did you deal with it when you realized that things were different? These years sounded really, really hard.
They were, with the suicide attempts, and a lot of that stuff. I just was like, well, I'm about to lose her one of these days. I'm going to go to work and I'm going to come home and it's just going to be bad. So, but then when she started getting off the medication, it was like, where do we go? This is all like new for us. Everything's changed, and just trying to figure out, and to be able to talk. And certain times she was pretty, out of it and crazy, and just like, I can't control my mind. It's running so fast, I've had all this taken away from me, and now that I'm off the medication, and then trying to just find that new normal.
And one of the things about borderline personality is it's actually, it's different than bipolar for the reason that the ups and downs of a person are so quick, in bipolar, because people wonder, well, isn't that just the same as bipolar disorder where you're manic or you're depressed? And I would say no, because in bipolar, people are manic for several days or weeks, and then they're depressed for several days or weeks. With borderline personality, it's this trauma-based illness where you're triggered by this, you're triggered by that, and then it causes just these massive swinging emotions where nobody really knows, including the person, what's going to set them off. And so it's extremely hard to live with, and it carries a lot of shame with it. So I would have a lot of outbursts, where things I would perceive, and I say perceive because he wasn't doing what I thought that he was, but by me and my skewed ability to look relationally at something and, to deduce it down and say, well, this is not a big deal. Things were just a really big deal to me. And I would feel abandoned, or I would feel like he was, making fun of me, or something bad was going to happen, or that he was going to leave me because I was so miserable. And so I would then have, big outbursts and kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And of course, he wouldn't know how to deal with it. And so then that would make it worse for me because I was trying to feel safe, but in trying to feel safe in those ways, it was just very damaging. And so I always carried around this sense of, I'm so embarrassing, I'm so shameful, I'm such a loser, all of those things. And, really, that's a painful place to be. But with borderline personality, your behavior isn't good. It's not intentional. Like the person really doesn't have the coping mechanisms that are necessary, but it also doesn't make the behavior good or likable or easy to be around. So the fact that he stuck in there with me is really just a testimony to just the love of God for me, but also just him as a husband choosing not to walk away when really he had a lot of reason to. And most people would have. Most people, when you're in the thick of a mental illness or you're in the thick of a personality disorder, it is something you can just say, I'm done. I can do better. And, maybe you could. But what our story shows is that it's also possible to stick it out. And it's also possible for there to be such incredible redemption for someone that carries the burden of a mental illness or a personality disorder or a massive major disability, that you can have a beautiful marriage and a close relationship. And it's so much more impressive when I look at our relationship than I do people that just decided I can go get a better version of A, B, or C.
Yeah, that is so very true. You about to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it was actually a lot of times I didn't know what to do. And so I would actually go call her mom. So and be like, hey, this just happened. Help me. Like, what should I do now? And she would always be like, well, did you go give her a hug? Well, no, that's a good idea. So, then I'd run in and go give her a hug, be like, hey, it's okay. I'm sorry I didn't give her a hug. But her mom would have to tell me several times, did you go hug her? Well, that's a great idea. Why didn't I go do that? And then I would go give her a hug. So, but and a lot of that, because you're just trying to think, what can I do to help her? She's feeling so much pain, and how to help her with this. And so, yeah. So a lot of times, just give your spouse a hug. It helps out a lot.
So if you had to say, besides for asking her mom, which sounds like you have a really good relationship with her, if
Yes.
you're the whole time doing that, what was the thing that helped you get out those really tough years, both individually for each of you and as a marriage, as a couple?
I would say just having, you have to take a break sometimes. A lot of times, like for me, I am terrible with emotion. So, and when you have someone that's extremely emotional, at the time, you just have to like kind of pull yourself away and just be like, oh, and then just try to give yourself a chance to be able to think through, hey, what just happened? And then not only that, but like, what is she going through? What is she thinking about? And how, I'm not there to fix it, but just to listen to, and a lot of times I'm just trying to fix it. I'm just like, hey, what just happened so I can fix it? And, and 99% of the time, it's not really me fixing anything, but just listening to what she's going through.
Yeah. For me, it would be, this is a really hard thing to do. And it took me years to do it without fighting against it. But I would have to say that accepting the truth about what I was doing while having compassion and understanding for the reason that it was going on. Let me clarify a little bit. When you are the person that has either a mental illness or borderline personality disorder or something like that, your behavior is not good. You're doing things that are destructive. And it's important to be able to admit that. And then while you're admitting it, to also have compassion and understand the reasons that you're doing it. So what I'm saying is, if you look at my history and my life and the things I've gone through, it would actually be weird if I didn't struggle today. If I went through everything I did and I came out totally fine, that would be weird, because we're not made as human beings to go through great trauma and to be okay. We can become okay. We can become healed, But when a body and a mind is repeatedly traumatized, that person is going to have some work to do. And so I've made the biggest strides in my life by taking the finger that I like to point at other people, because it's easier and it provides me some comfort and some cover, and going, okay, I am acting bad. I don't have the proper coping mechanisms. I need help. I need community. I need medication. I need therapy. And then also going, but that doesn't make me a terrible person. It doesn't make me shameful. It doesn't mean that I'm not worthy of love. It means that I've gone through a lot and I need more help than my friends over here or my peers to be functional in a relational setting. That's okay. And so accepting it, but also providing myself with compassion. So it's not just this thing that digs down on you and you carry shame, because we never heal when who we are is associated with something shameful. And even if you do something embarrassing or something shameful, even all the things that I've done that have been embarrassing and shameful doesn't mean that as a human being, I'm shameful. It means I've gone through a lot. And the fact that I'm owning up to the weaknesses that I have is only going to provide me more of a way to heal.
Yeah. That's really, really beautiful. Really well said. Because we have to take responsibility for it, but at the same time, we don't have to beat ourselves up for it.
Yes.
To understand that we've got work to do and it's okay, and we're going to figure it out. So now, currently, out of curiosity, you're still on medication?
I take an antidepressant every day, but I don't take anything else. So I have wildly cut down, and I am very thankful for that. So, and I sometimes would even say that it's almost would be easier just to go back on medication, because and again, I'm not against medication, but everybody has to weigh that, with your situation, because sometimes we would just rather take the easy way out instead of learning to deal with the things that hinder us. And medication is a tool, but it's not the answer. It doesn't heal you, it helps you. And so it should never take the place of the hard work that is necessary to become mentally strong and emotionally stable.
Exactly. It's there to, obviously it depends on the situation. I don't want to
Yes.
put anything, but hopefully it's there just to help you get there until you have the tools and what you,
Mhm.
I think, so that way you can go off the medication afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're currently go to therapy?
Yes, I do. I do.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you go together, go separately, or
We have
you
gone
don't go?
together in the past, and we've gone individually in the past. And now it's just kind of I'm going, and he has taken a little break from that. So
Super cool. So what would you say now? It's been 8 years. There's been some
Mhm.
really, really tough ones, but it sounds like things are way better. Obviously, there's always more
Yes.
to go. Um, how would you, what would you say is different now about your relationship than it was when you got married originally?
I would say from sticking it in, I would say that our love has gone from something where we tolerate each other to where we are best friends.
Yeah, it's more like when we first got married, it was more, I guess, immature, kind of shallow
Mm-hmm.
relationship. We didn't really know each other
Mm-hmm.
a lot. And then as you go through just these different, battles together, um, and come out on the other side and learn from each thing, you just grow stronger together. So
One thing that stands out to me is a couple days ago I was having a hard time, and I had made a mistake. Actually, I had when I get stressed out, I like to do projects, and Jerry really wants me to talk with him before I go and repaint a wall or something. Anyway, I got in a mode, and I don't know what I was thinking, and I just started doing a project on our wall upstairs. Anyway, he was, of course, unhappy. And I just broke down and was like, I don't know what I was doing. And I was crying and apologizing. And he just came to me and he hugged me and he told me, he said, Connie, the ability that you have to just admit when you're wrong and to try again, even when you're feeling bad about things, he said, that is what makes me respect you. And he just said that he loved me and I didn't need to worry about it. And I will just tell you that that's healing. Like, it's not just something nice that he said, but when you stick in there, this man is the balm that continues to heal me through the days and through the struggles. And you could say that I help him by struggling with honesty and by having the ability to admit my failures and to try again. So he's witnessing that in me, and that is helping him, and he is helping me by, instead of speaking I guess you could say, death to me because of, again, things that are just frustrating. How frustrating is it to continue to deal with the same problems from your spouse? But instead of doing that, he's using it as a way to respect me and a way to give me encouragement that helps me to hold my head up and to not feel shame, to feel like his equal, not somebody that, he steps on. So it's so worth hanging in there.
Well, and I'll just tell you that I can count on my hand, which I'll just tell you the answer is 0, of how many times, like you really want to win an argument. Like if you have an argument, you're like, I know I'm right, and I'm going to win this. But I can tell you 0 times in our marriage that it's brought us closer together. It might feel good to win the argument, but then if you look at it and think, well, it didn't really bring us closer together, So trying to change those conversations to where, you feel like both are getting something out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that so much. That was so beautiful. Okay, so before we get to our final question, where could life fixers connect with you and learn more about you?
I actually have a weekly podcast. It's called Weed, Seeds, and Beautiful Things, and it airs every Friday. And I also have a website at weedseedsandbeautifulthings.com. And then on Instagram or Facebook at the same thing, Weed, Seeds, and Beautiful Things.
Awesome. Okay, so for our final question, one that gets asked to everyone is, how do you describe an extraordinary relationship without using love, trust, or connection?
I would say an extraordinary relationship is one where the focus is to build each other up. There are always things that stick out in every relationship from every spouse that are not what you want, not what you like, not what you need, not helpful, hurtful, stupid, irritating. And so to spend your life with someone and to look for ways to build them up and to live in a not perfect mindset of building up and supporting, but progressively more and more and more looking at your person and looking at them as a maybe a piece of clay that you have the ability to mold them into something incredible. And you do that by your support and by your affirmations and by your time and by your grace versus what they deserve. And so I think that if we look at our relationships like that, that is how they can be extraordinary.
And again, just being able to, look at them and be able to respect your spouse, just being able to, give them that, put them on a pedestal and
put them on.
Yeah. And what can I help you with today? What can, make her smile? So, yeah.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much, Connie and Jerry. This was super interesting and really inspirational. I really appreciate you guys coming on here.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure.
That's all for this episode of the Life Picks University podcast, but I have a huge favor to ask of you that will not only support the show, but will also help the people you love most. We are striving for 1 million downloads by the end of 2025, and we can't do this without your help. If you love this episode, please share it with 2 of your family and friends so they too can rewire their brains to have an extraordinary marriage. It was awesome spending time with you, and I'll see you on the next episode.